Yeah, so what? It's your boy, Bitz and Bobz. Morning, people. How we doing? Listen, I've got a special guest here with me today. It's the big bro, Haider. Haider, how are we doing this morning, bro? How you doing?
Mate, I'm buzzing to be on your podcast. Thank you for inviting me. Honestly, it's an absolute honor. I know you're doing some amazing work. We had a great podcast the other day on Usman. So yeah, I'm good. I'm good today. I'm still out of a job, so I'm just still doing a lot of job hunting at the moment. But positivity, mate, that's important, isn't it, in these times?
100%. Positivity is contagious, my friend. And, I said to you before, if there's anything I can help you with, just keep applying, bro, because one person will give you an opportunity, man.
Yeah,
100%.
appreciate it, man.
Let's believe in that. So, guys, just to let you know what I'm doing is it's called Bitz and Bobz Meets Haider. So, I'm very passionate about racism, making a change, discrimination. Bit of background of me. I am the first black leader at the City Edinburgh Council. I am the leader of the BAME network. I am the first Black Members Officer of the Unison in my Edinburgh branch. And also, I'm a Nigerian man with a Scottish accent that wants equality for Scotland. So you can say I want everyone to be united for a diverse future. And that means whether you're black, white, brown, whatever, male, female, LGBT, whatever, It's funny, isn't it, that as kids, we all play with each other freely. But when we wake up, as we get older, it starts to be a divide. And what I will say, guys, that segregation has taught us one thing: it doesn't work, 100%. So, Haider, man, I'm gonna pass you the torch, bro. So, just tell me about yourself, man. What I want to get into is like specific details. What do you identify as? What was your childhood like?
Oh, how long you got? No, look, I'm obviously British Indian, got a bit of Iranian as well, Muslim. So born here, my parents are born here as well. So yeah, my granddad was the one that emigrated over with my grandma. So yeah, so third generation British. So all I've known is the UK. I consider it home. Hasn't felt like that way, I'll be honest with you for the past since Brexit probably. My childhood, honestly, mate, I've had a really privileged childhood. My grandparents decided to move out like into sort of just outside Reading sort of area, so not far outside London. Yeah. Really good upbringing in terms of nice place to live, very white, and that for a lot of my life has been a challenge, right? Not being able to like integrate fully into like the white culture, but then also not having as much exposure until I got to university of my culture, more of the brown sort of culture, and then always sort of sitting on the fence. And that's been something I've probably battled my whole life. So I've sat there and I've been immersed in the white culture, and I've seen it, like, like good, like rich white culture, right? That where it's privilege. Where I live is nice, but then on the other side of it as well, I've seen some people have never met a brown person or a black person, and it just boggles your mind. It's like a different world. And then I've also seen, obviously, which I'm more comfortable with, which is my culture. So I've had a bit of both worlds. So I've always sat on the fence, and it's something that I think it's always given me as well a good perspective on things, understanding both sides. Yeah. But also it's made me sort of sit and watch more rather than to act. I said to you the other day when I was on Usman's podcast, I said that I'm not someone that talks so much about these things. I do when I do, but I'm not someone that screams and shouts every time. I like to sit, I like to think, and then I'd say my response. So
reflect,
reflect rather. And that's just because I've seen a lot from both sides. Stuff that you won't believe, which I'm sure we'll go into. But yeah, I'm sitting here now. I'm 25 years old. Like, I went to University of Birmingham, so very multicultural. Again, managed to integrate more with sort of what I consider my own culture, sort of more the Indian sort of Muslim culture. And I'm just sitting here now, and I'm ready now to talk. I've got a bit of a platform now, and I'm ready to engage more with these sort of topics, which perhaps I didn't, especially what I'm seeing over the last 2-3 months. It's made me want to come in and talk to people like you, and maybe want to actually make a difference, because social media is an amazing thing. We've seen the amount of great support that's been there for Mason Greenwood and even Marcus Rashford.
100%.
And I think people need to just not. It's like with the Glazers, right? I know it's not about football, but when the Glazers are bad, people are always on them. But then now no one's talking about it, and that's what it's like with racism. When something happens, people are on it. But now, well, you know, when nothing big's happened, people forget about it.
Exactly.
And it's something that annoys me.
And do you know what? That's why, like, no matter where I go, I always ask the question. You know, I meet. I mean, I'll make this. I meet with the Labour group, in Edinburgh Labour group, you know, weekly, and you know, I won't say I grill them, but I ask them the questions. It's like, well, what are you doing for the BAME community? And this is not. It's not. I always say to people, like, racism isn't a debate. Discrimination isn't a debate. But for some reason, we're having debates over it, you know, which is quite interesting. And I mean, salute to you, brother. You said you're 25, bro. I'm 31, and I'm calling you big bro. What the hell?
I know, mate. People say I'm beyond my years. Like, or even when I was younger, mate, I was always a little bit like I said, I just never felt like I fitted in. So my mindset was always a little bit different. Maybe it's because I was around white people who just didn't get it. So I felt like I had to grow up quicker. My parents always used to say to me, you know, like, you're not the same, in the nicest way possible. Integrate, but you're not the same. They'll never think you're the same. And that's horrible to think at the age of what, 12, 13 years old. And you think that all the way to get to university, 18. So that's they're really formative years, aren't they? When you're in school, when you're doing like your GCSEs, your A levels.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like I feel like I've had to sort of grow up quicker because I'm around people that don't understand. And then you cover who you are.
I'm glad you said that you have to grow up quicker, because from a young age, as a in fact, you know, I'm not going to hate the minority, but as a black, brown person, okay, you have to get street smart so quickly. And when I say so quickly, I'm saying you need to understand the scenario and the situation you're in, and the scenario you are about to put yourself into. Okay, and you know, it's like saying, like, we have friends from different races. You know, however, when it comes to racism, unfortunately, we're the only ones that are the victims of it. You know, and it's a very strong reminder that you're different. You know, but unfortunately, the people that victimize us are the poison, are the people who aren't educated, who are very ignorant. I just want to ask you a question. What was it like for you? Okay. I know you said you grew up very privileged and stuff. So, like, did you have any incidents that comes to mind? And when I say incidents, so for the people that are going to watch this, I want you to remember that when we talk about racism, it's a trauma we are reliving verbally, you know. So, Haider, man, please take your time. But yeah, if you can come up with an incident.
Mate, there's a lot of incidences. And that's the thing, you know. You think that if you're with people that are more privileged, you're with people that, you know, the parents who have money, you think they'd be more understanding. Actually, they're not. It's little things like, if you're from London, you know, when you, like, Muslims say wallahi, you know what that means. You know, when people say, well, you know, all these little words that you say. I remember once I threw that out a couple of years ago when I did a master's in law, business and management. So so even when I was around, you know, I guess at university as well, it was still the same. It was the same people. I was the only brown person. There was no black people in my class. There's 25 of us. Like that says it all as well, doesn't it? Maybe it's the area, but no, I even when I remember throwing words out like that, people looked at me like I'm an alien, and I was like, I can't even talk about my own culture around my friends. And look, they're all still my friends, and they're all good guys, and I still see them. But you always come back and you feel like, right, I don't really fit this jigsaw piece doesn't fit in the puzzle a little bit. And you know, one of them I've spoken to about, but the others don't know about it. They might see this and they'll be like, what the hell is he talking about? But one specific moment, and this is from a very young age, must have been 8 or 9 years old, I think. And mum wears a headscarf. She never used to, and then she started wearing it when we were younger. I remember one guy, he was Russian, and he was like, your mum's a terrorist. Does she wear a headscarf because she's going to put a bomb in it? She going to blow everyone up? Like, yeah, just. And I remember just being like, what the? I mean, I just didn't even know how to comprehend it. And the thing is, though, is that I didn't say anything for a long time, so I just kept that bottled in. Eventually, it became violent, and I ended up sort of getting physical with him.
As you do.
Then as you do, yeah. Well, you don't know how to. You're the age of what, 8, 9 years. You don't know how to handle these things. But it's things like that are just scarring. So then after that, you don't trust people. So in some weird ways, you don't want to like your people to see your mom. If that makes sense. It's a weird thing to say, but you don't want to like to come around because you don't want them to think these things. And the majority of people, protect her from that. So then what you do is then you keep your friends at arm's length, and you're like, okay, so I'll see you at school, I'll see you outside, but you're not going to come to my house because I don't trust what you think or what you'll. It's crazy. You're so young. So that was one of the main ones. And then there's other incidences, mate. Like when I said to you when we did the the podcast, it was when I said to you that it's even jokes like, oh, like brownie, this or that, because you're in a group of white guys, and you think at the age of what, 16, 17, 18, it's all bad, so it's all a joke. And it wasn't until about 2-3 years ago where I sat back and I was like, that was racism, blatant. They dressed it up with jokes. It was racism. And I remember being the only brown guy in a group of like 10, 15 white guys that I was never taken as seriously as them. So I was always more of the joke of the group. So I'd be the butt of the jokes. I'd be the one that, and I could take the banter because that's what I'm like as a person. But I was like, I don't need to sit here and take that. I don't need to sit here like that. I'm in the group. Why? Because they need an extra sort of like a brown guy. And then I'm the butt of the jokes. And unfortunately, that's made me a bit of a cynical person. And people say, oh, you're just being sensitive. But no, this is a problem. They say that you're being sensitive to sort of mask over what they say.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying, don't you?
Yes, I get you said that. And what is a joke? A joke is a phrase or a sentence or a metaphor that makes people laugh. Okay, so if you're, as we say in Scotland, slagging off someone's skin color in a joking in jest way, okay, people, it's not a joke. It's casual racism. And then do you know what? Let's be honest. There's programs on TV that encouraged it. There was languages in the media, newspapers, television, whatever. Classrooms, probably. Playgrounds, probably one of the worst places. As a kid growing up, that this casual language. And it's not to say that these people are racist. No, what it is to say is that there's an inheritance of racism, an ignorance of a stereotype. And I've got loads of white friends in Scotland. I mean, I live in Scotland. Right? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So dominate. Do you know what I mean? But there are loads of Muslims. There's loads of Eastern European. There's loads of LGBT. We have everything. So it's quite rude not to be aware of the language I should be using and shouldn't be using. And I said this the other day. Yeah, I said to one of the political groups, I said, are you aware of the BAME in your area? Well, no, not really. We don't really interact. And that's not their fault. Okay. So I said to them this: when you go home and you decide you don't want to cook and you think, right, the whole household agrees you're getting a takeaway. Yeah. And they go, yeah. You have so many options, correct? And they're like, yeah. I said, you have Chinese, you have Pakistan, you have Indian, you have Eastern European, African and Caribbean. Yeah, Bobby, what's your point? Who do you think makes these foods?
It's true. It's a great point. It's a great point. What did they say?
They just looked at me and just said, yeah, you're right. I'm like, this is my point. So we are aware of these people, because when you call to order these foods, you don't say, hello, brownie, or hello, blackie, or anything. No. You put on a nice telephone voice and say, hi, can I order blah? So let's flip that. Keep the same energy when you are around your brown, black, Asian, whatever kind of friends. Respect it. You know what I'm trying to say?
They don't move in the same social circles. That's the problem. They don't view them as they're equal, and they don't think 2 seconds about who the person is. I'm just in my order, and that's the problem. When you're moving in those circles, and that's why it does get difficult, because when you like I moved in the white circles, right? So I've moved in those circles, and you become a certain way, like the way you view things, the way you talk, the way you do this and that. Then when you go and hang out with, like, say, your own people,
your guys,
they're like, what's happened to you, mate? And that's the thing. So it's such a difficult thing. But I honestly think it's because people don't even think. Look, I've got one guy who's a really good friend of mine, the nicest person you'll ever meet, like proper good guy. Private school we went to, he's loaded. Like, his dad's the head of a financial market, not EMEA, but a different financial market. So the guy's got money. His dad's bought him an apartment in Ladbroke Grove with his sister. Like, this is what happens, right? It's just the nicest guy you'll ever meet, but he just doesn't have any awareness because it doesn't affect him. It's just but he's not like he's ignorant. If you tell him about it, he will understand, but he just has no connection with any of this sort of world that we're talking about, and he just doesn't think, and it just boggles your mind, mate, because like you said, the takeaway, like, we've ordered takeaway how many times at his house, he wouldn't even think twice the delivery driver's a brown guy or black guy. But it just makes your mind go
yeah. And do you know what, it's not his fault. Let's not say it's not his fault. It's just you know, like, what I say to people, that the good and bad thing about racism and discrimination is a subject that's never going to go away, because unfortunately it's always going to happen and arise. So that means we as individuals have a choice. Do we choose to engage and learn? Because let's be honest, we're learning not just for ourselves, but learning to teach our friends, our households, and so on, our colleagues, our peers. For the people that choose not to engage, it could be so many number of reasons. It could be that they don't care, they're not interested, or it hasn't happened to them, so it doesn't hit home. It's something with COVID, you know. I know a lot of people that don't take it seriously, and then unfortunately their family member has got it, and then they've took it seriously. It's one of those things, you know. Haider, just a quick segue in. Who do you support, football-wise?
Oh, football, United fan.
You're a Man United fan.
I've got a story about this, actually. A racism story at United. Mate, I'm full of stories. So remember, was it a couple of years ago when United played Barcelona in the Champions League? When it was 1-0 away, 1-0 at Old Trafford. So sitting in the Stretford end, and maybe like 4 or 5 rows in front of me. This one we had Lukaku. And Lukaku, I think he either miscontrolled it, and he called him a lazy F, black C, basically.
Okay.
Really loud. The guy was either smashed or he put a little bit up there, whatever. Anyway. No excuse, whatever. But he was just a bit. He's been just disruptive during the whole game. And the guy next to him he must. I reckon he was in his 20s. The guy next to him, or a couple of seats down, heard this. I heard it from up where I was sitting, 5 rows up, and I was like, "Oh, mate." And basically, the older guy was like, he called him up on it. Well, white guy as well. And the whole game, they were trying to fight each other. The whole game, you see them going fighting, and then they get broken up with their mates and just fighting. And I'm just thinking, this was what, 2018? This is when Ollie just joined. And I thought, if I'm sitting in a stadium and I'm hearing this now, like, to your own player, like, what hope do you have? And then he's like, I didn't say anything wrong. I can say what I want. So see
when you say that, okay, so I used to play football to a decent level. No secret, everyone knows I played for Rangers as a youth. I played for Raith Rovers, and I played for Clyde. Okay, so I've seen it, done it. I've been the victim of it. I've heard it from parents towards me. Okay, and I always say that the football stands is a place where people go to get their rage out, but then I also think they go there to be themselves, so they can say what they want, act how they want to act for that duration of time, for the 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. I've had that before. So I was with my friend at a Hibs game. Hibs played Rangers, and which is a big fixture up here. Both clubs hate each other, proper rivalry. And I don't really go to football games because I know what gets said. I'm not stupid. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be in that environment. And not all football stadiums are like that. Like, I go on record and get the disclaimer out now. Not all football teams are like that. So anyway, it was around near Christmas time, November or December, and went with my friend. And obviously already, I'm like, bloody hell. I'm like, where's Wally? It's just me. And then he kept asking me, he's like, you're right. I was was like, I'm fine, bro. Don't worry. So we're watching.
Was he white?
Yeah. He was
Your
white.
mate?
He was white.
Yeah.
Good friend of mine, childhood friend. We went to secondary school, played in football teams. Great guy. And watching the game, and obviously, like, because when you've played football, you look at things differently. You analyze things a little bit different. And in my head, I was thinking, they've got a black guy playing centre midfield. God. And he was petite. He was strong, but he was petite. And I just thought to myself, if Rangers play it right, they're going to overrun him, which they did. And all you heard was, for fuck's sake, you black, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and the guy, his friends, turned around and looked at me and said, oh, he didn't mean it, mate. He's just quite angry. You're one of us. And I was just like, no. So my friend lost the plot. And he was just like, ready to rumble. And I grabbed him, I was like, mate, no point. And he's like, Bobz, I'm not going to no. I was just like, bro, leave it. He's like, no, I'm not having that. And I said to him, I went, thank you. I love you for this. But going forward, a court case, it's not ideal for any of us right now. So let the guy carry on about his business. He's going to more likely apologise. It'll be like a stupid handshake. And he was just like, and my friend was so pissed off. He was like, let's just go. He's like, no. Which for me was, I was quite happy because I was like, he gets it. And then, I mean, we ended up standing somewhere else and watching the game. And for the game, he was just like, I effing hate people like that. That's not what we're about. This club's not about that, blah, blah. And I said to him, I was like, bro, it's cool. He was like, no, it's not cool. And the more I tried to play it down, he was like, no. So what my point is that, like, there are people out there that do police it, that do want to do something because they don't want to be painted with that brush. Do you know? And it's an interesting thought. And just when you said that, just made me think that. So I never went back to another football game, believe it or not. I just don't go. I've been to a few Manchester games, but that's because, I mean, you can see some of us around the stadium. Do you know what I mean? So it's cool. But yeah, I don't really go. I watch it from the TV, but I don't really go because I just think to myself, if you can casually use this language, what are you saying in the pubs? At home. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't really want to be around that because mentally it's draining and it's just upright hurtful. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you?
100%, man.
So, Haider, my next question to you, okay? You're on YouTube, okay? You're doing your thing, okay? Good following and so on. Did you have any doubts about that? Being the way you look and the way who you are? Because before I came on YouTube, I didn't really see many ethnics. Didn't really see many. And that's not to say YouTube is racist. No. What I'm saying is that, when you grow up, and this is what I said earlier, when you grow up, you have to become street smart. You see things a lot more. You see things differently. And it's like in professions, For example, in Scotland, I don't see many black police officers. I don't see many black parking attendants. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? So if you're going into a field, so right now I'm studying construction, built and environment. So I'm studying to be a quantity surveyor. Okay.
Amazing.
I don't see many black surveyors. I don't know any black quantity surveyors.
Be the first, mate. Be the first. I know what you're saying. 100%. Look, okay. So when I started doing this, a year ago, and it started with my two brothers, and we thought we'd just do a football podcast, audio. Didn't want to put our faces out there. I've never been about putting my face out there. So this, like what you're seeing from me now, if you spoke to me a year ago, I'd be like, I'm not doing that. Even with social media, I'm not someone that like does a lot on social media. I use Twitter for what it is. I hate Twitter. It's amazing. I met cool people. I met people like you. I would never have met you otherwise if I didn't know. I met Usman. I met Usman how many months ago now? 4 months ago now. We did a few stuff on on another show together, and then now I speak to him, you know, a lot of time. Great guy, and you got to think of the positives, but then there's negatives as well, mate. I've spent this international break's been nice because I've spent pretty much the week being like, right, who am I going to mute? Who am I going to block? And I'm literally going to go on Twitter when I release a podcast, or if, for example, you've messaged me, I'm going to reply. Otherwise, I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah,
because you just have to look under the Sainsbury's advert, the comments under that. I don't know if you saw the Christmas ad, obviously the one with the black family, and the comments under that. And I just thought, you know what, you're right. It's for that mental health. So, what was the question again? I've gone off topic.
No. And people, do you know what? When you watch this back, this is what happens when we discuss racism or we discuss being street smart, because it's a trauma we relive and it's a passion. And also, you're angry, you know, because it's like, why should I have to deal with this? Do you know what I mean? You bleed red just like any other human being. My question was, with you being a Muslim, okay, and your skin color is brown, okay, did you have any doubts of the kind of negative media reception you'd get? Because you're thinking, oh God, if I'm going to put my face out there and talk this, people are probably going to firstly hit me with my skin color, probably target your beard, Muslim jokes. You already know. So, I mean, how did you feel, and what was your feelings towards it? And can I just say, salute you for doing this, by the way. Seriously.
Oh, mate, I appreciate going on. And, you know, it's good for me to talk about this because a lot of things I keep hidden, you know, because of being in the environment I'm in. You know, obviously I speak to my family about it, my brothers. I'm very close with my two brothers. They're a couple of years younger than me. But, you know, I can't go and openly say this to my mates. So you just suppress it and you leave it. You know, you just tuck it under the carpet. And talking to you, it's nice. It feels kind of therapeutic in a way as well. Knowing that, like, I'm not the only one, but I don't talk to people about it. So now I'm opening an extra door. But you know what? Maybe it's naive. I never didn't want to show my face because I remember we made the decision to go to YouTube and showing your face, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Not because of the color of my skin. Maybe that's naive because I've actually had a few instances since, but more because I just didn't want to put my face out there. It was just one of those things I didn't want to do. It wasn't whether I was brown or white or black. You're right. Like, I've actually realized in the last 2-3 months how many more brown and black YouTubers there are, and I think that's amazing. Like, all my time now I see, you know, brown and black people be successful, and I'm really happy to see that. We had one incident which, and I think this is probably a good thing. StreamYard, obviously, you know, you can go live, you get the comments flying in.
I
think it was my Periscope wasn't working, and I had Jamie Jackson, you know, the big journalist, the one from the Guardian. Really good guy. I had him on, and we were talking about we were just talking about United. I think we were talking about Ollie, and we disagreed on a topic. And my brother he's a producer, and there was one guy in there going, "Oh, all these BAME guys, they do YouTube for the money. That's all what they're here for. Let him speak." Yeah. So I never saw any of these comments come in. So apparently, it was bad. So apparently, a lot of the guys in the comments, you know, people that listen and follow and whatever, they were apparently going in on him. And I was in a group chat, and one of the guys messaged on it, one of the white guys, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, good on you, Haider, for ignoring it." And I'm like, ignoring what? I had no idea. Maybe it was a good thing, so it didn't throw me off, but that was the first time I realized that there are people that sit there and think that because a brown guy is doing this to profit off the club, not because he's educated enough, not because he's got good opinions, not because he's good at presenting, he can talk, you know. Talented. No one looks at that. Talented. No one looks at that, and that's why I've teamed up with people like Rob Blanchard. That's why I talk to you. That's why I don't go on many people's podcasts, by the way. It's not like something I'm better, because I don't want to be out there too much, because, you know, like these sort of incidences. So whenever Usman messages me and I've got time, I'll message. I'm very happy to be here today. But like, I pick and choose whose podcasts I go on, and I sat there and I thought, you know, if that's generally what people think, and there's a lot of people that think like that BAME person doing for money, I make nothing, mate. I've got no views to make any money, and that's never been my plan. Would I like to perhaps maybe in the future get a gig later on in the, you know, in down the line? Yeah, probably. Who wouldn't? Like, that's what we do it for. But why should it be okay for a white guy to go and do it and be successful, but a brown person can't? That's the first time. So YouTube, I think it's a great platform, but I never once thought or worried about that But the fact that people thought like that took me back by a lot of surprise. But I thought, you know what, maybe it's naive, but I've never been exposed to that. And when you're exposed to it, then you're a bit more careful. But you know what? You just keep on going. You can't let someone like that. You just block him and move on. And that's what I do.
Exactly.
I'm not someone that gives them airtime. You know, I've had it before. You know, even I'm not from Manchester. I'm from just outside London. But you know, people saying, "Oh, you haven't got a man accent. You can't be a fan." Even that, I know it's not as big, but it's still like a. Would they say that to a white guy who had a London accent?
Yeah,
I'm not too sure. I'm
not too sure. And do you know what, Haider? It's I'm glad you said this because it illustrates that this is not a myth. You know, it's not a myth. It illustrates that these things these things happen, and the reason I'm laughing is just because, you know, we come from different walks of life, yet we've went for the same thing. You know,
yeah.
People is just like, what I say to you, good on you. You know, your friend, I salute your friend for saying well done to you for ignoring it. But you know, the thing is that why should we ignore it? We need to acknowledge every single statement to correct them. Because I say to people, when you do something wrong, you get corrected or you get punished. If you learn a language and you speak in the wrong way or pronounce something wrong, you get corrected. So these people that are discriminating or are being racist or stuff, let's correct them. Okay, yes, punish them, but also make sure they learn to be corrected. And
education, isn't it?
Yeah. And do you know what? With my white colleagues, my white friends, I say to them, speak freely, because what we don't want is you to be scared or frightened to speak your mind. Because like anything, if you say something wrong, look, I'll say to you, can't say that because this is how people are going to take it. I understand you're trying to learn, so I appreciate you being open and freely. Bro, see when you use that phrase, if you see the relief in some people's faces, it's engaging and it makes it more inclusive. My last question to you, Haider, okay? It's a two-part question. Marcus Rashford, okay, has, you know, there was a song, I said it on Red Devil Studio saying, well, he said it actually, to be honest. Feed the world, let them know it's Rashford's time, right? Do you know, for me, okay, so this is the question. The question is like, what is your thoughts on what he's doing? And also, what is your thoughts on his name being put in the mud by the media? And before you answer that, I just want to illustrate, it's been on Twitter recently how they've, you know, labeled, used different languages and so forth. He's done. Just before you answer this question, I just want to emphasize, this is a 23-year-old millionaire that plays football who could just ignore what happens in his country, who could just go on about his business, could ignore his duties to any community, and also he's a kid. He's a young man, okay? He's a young black man, okay? So please answer the question.
Look, I did a podcast on this yesterday, so
I'll go check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It's today at midday. So I did it with one of the guys that sort of, you know, I brought on board with my sort of channel or whatever, and he's American, a white American guy, and he came up with an amazing point because I mentioned Didier Drogba. Didier Drogba is someone that's done so much work, hasn't he, back home in the Ivory Coast. Apparently, he even stopped the war essentially with the work that he's done. Incredible sort of impact off the pitch. But this guy who I did the podcast with, he turned around and said, "Yeah, but that's the point. Back home," and I never thought of it that way. But you know, people don't regard Rashford, this is a sad truth, as this being his home. It's like that with me. So with him doing all this stuff, you'll always hear the PR rubbish, or he's doing this for PR, he's doing this for popularity. It's absolutely nonsense. You know, this is a problem that I think what he's doing is incredible. No one said to him, you have to do anything. No one said anything. He could literally go pocket his money, go and buy a nice fast car, go and buy multiple properties, go and set up a business if he wants. And that's fine. He should be allowed to do that because that's his money he's earned. The problem is it's jealousy, right? So people are jealous because a black person, this is the reality of it. And you have to think as well, the other side of the coin is that how many brown footballers are there? Brown, Asian, Indian footballers. They're hardly any. So that's another element of racism as well. But a lot of amazing black footballers have risen to the top, and they're the top of the game, and they don't like. And the problem is there's a faction of football fans who don't like it. Why? Because there's jealousy. Remember, these guys are making so much money that you can't even think about, and perhaps white players in the past, in previous times, haven't made as much money. There's jealousy there. And then the second thing as well is the idea that just you don't know, and you're stupid, you're a footballer, because that's the impression, isn't it? That's the view, the stereotype of a footballer. He's not clever, cares about fast cars, women. It's horrible, but that's what they think. It's a bit like rappers, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
You think about people just automatically assume a black rapper is indulgent, or who just likes whatever, the luxuries of life.
They just wake up and they think I'm gonna buy a fast car today. Not that they've got siblings, mother, father, or responsibilities outside, or actually an interest or a hobby. And I want to just conclude it by saying it's like they don't think they have a mind.
Exactly.
You know what I'm trying to say to you?
They think he's a footballer. He's stupid. All he can do is kick a ball around, and that's the thing. When we look at it, and what I said in my podcast was that what Marcus has done is pioneering. It's changed the landscape, where he's done this genuinely because, one, he's experienced it, and he's thinking, I was younger and I was starving, and my mum did everything she could for me, so I can give back because I have the platform, I have the resources, I have the influence. I can't tell you how much I respect him. And the problem is, people turn around and say, "Oh, well, you know what? He's not doing on the pitch. He should focus on the pitch." This is people's mindsets, but that privilege. I saw a tweet. It's a quote that always goes around, which people say, people who have had privilege their whole life, they feel like equality is oppression. And this is one of the most truest facts you'll ever, truest quotes you'll ever hear, that people who have had privilege all their life cannot understand. And I can't understand that, to be honest. I didn't have school dinners. I was privileged. But you know what? I've never once sat there and thought, why is he doing this? Or is there ulterior motive?
Because you're humble.
But my parents have built that in. And this is what being a minority, and I don't like using that, but being someone of color, you get drilled in these I'm sure you do as well, these values, about family, about being humble, but don't be arrogant, be grateful for what you have. I've had a really
basic skills, though, isn't it? Let's be honest.
We say it's basic skills. but it's not, because there's just certain things you get taught when you're younger. And even now, like my parents, I'm 25, they'll still turn around to me and say, you got to be like this, you got to be like that, consistently telling me, don't let your head get above water. And Marcus Rashford is incredible. And you talk about what we've seen in the media, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. The language. You've seen Foden buys a house for, he's done this. Marcus goes and stockpiles out because he's got too much money. It's disgusting. It's clear racism, and people are now starting to wake up and see it. And there's one guy on Twitter, him as well. I'm not going to name him. I'll tell you off there who he is. Really great guy. I've seen you guys interact. So, he's a white guy. He's in his 40s. I talked to him quite a lot on DMs about these sort of things. And we were talking about Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
And Lewis Hamilton, right? Why is it always but every time you talk about him? But this, but that. If this is Michael Schumacher, who's won 7 titles, why is Lewis Hamilton not put on an even higher pedestal because he's done better than him? Why? What is the reason why? And you know what people say? Oh, he doesn't live in the UK. He lives in Switzerland. He's not even British. Would they say that about a white person? They wouldn't. And this is the thing, that automatically when a black person or a brown person does something which is extraordinary, there's always a caveat but. And with Marcus Rashford, they build you up. They build you up so that they can knock you down. That's what they 100%. Do. He's the most incredible young man. I say he's a young man. He's like 2 years younger than me, but he's an absolute role model. I can't even speak about how highly I view him and how highly I value him. But also, I'm not going to be one of those people, if he's doing poorly on the football pitch, if he's not performing, to use this against him, because that's what people do. So what I will say is, this will not change until the next generation of journalists come through. And I know a few guys who are studying journalism. You know them, James. James, who was on Usman's podcast the other day. Good guys, thoughtful guys. It's sad, but they're going to have to clean up the mess that the previous generations have left. And we say, is it going to change? I don't know, Bobz. I don't know if it's going to change because do you know why? Because I don't think that people want to change.
No,
because I don't think people believe it's a thing. I don't think people believe it's a real thing. When we sit here and we talk about our experiences, we're called sensitive, woke culture. Just not like accepting things as if they're a joke, but they're not a joke. But this is people's lives and people's feelings. And for my whole life, mate, I felt like I'm sitting on a fence, or I got splinters in my ass because like I'm sitting between like the white culture and the brown culture, and you can feel like you can never assimilate into either. And that's why like my missus has been amazing.
We call people. Yeah. I done a podcast about being black and Scottish, and it's like you grow up with two different cultures. You leave your house, you're the Scottish boy. You come back to your house, you're the Nigerian black boy. Different. It's about when you said about like people coming into your house and stuff. And for me, yeah, I mean, just on the Lewis Hamilton thing, Piers Morgan tweeted something, right? And he said, if Henry Cooper, Jackie Stewart, and Sterling Moss all got a knighthood, can someone explain why Lennox Lewis and Lewis Hamilton haven't? Greatest British boxer and greatest driver, arguably the greatest world. Now, so I heard something on Talksport, and Ali McCoy was talking about Lewis Hamilton. And I don't really listen to Talksport, but I like Ali McCoy because Ali McCoy is very funny, good listening, you know what I mean? Very Scottish, he tells a good story. But they were talking about Lewis Hamilton and stuff, and he said something that bothered me. He said, I think he's a bit arrogant, I think his attitude, blah, blah. And I think to myself, do you live in Monaco? Do you actually talk to this guy? Do you break bread with him? Do you know him? To say that. And do you know what? We're talking about languages. That's the language people use for black people and brown people. Arrogant, lazy. Attitude.
It's so true.
All these buzzwords, it's like, he's lazy, he's lazy.
It's institutional. That's institutional racism. And that's the thing, What's the difference between? I know this is off tangent. I know we've got to wrap up, and what's the difference between Paul Pogba and Harry Maguire? Why is Paul Pogba being labelled as a virus when you talk to everyone? I've done a lot of research on Paul Pogba. I watched a lot of Serie A. Every single player that's played for him, not one player has got a negative thing to say. So how have the media suddenly just virus? He's arrogant. He got Mourinho sacked. Yeah, Harry Maguire's put up as being a model citizen, and yet he's went to like, Paul Pogba. You know what the problem is, right? This is the facts, and this is the truth that and just have to look at football fans. They revere white players who have beaten their wives or their girlfriends, drugs, drink. Look, Paul Gascoigne is revered. George Best is revered, right? Even though they've done some awful stuff. Paul Pogba doesn't drink. John Terry, revered. I mean, we saw the Carlton Cole with the guy from the Stoppage Time.
Shout out to Stoppage Time TV, man. That was a brilliant podcast.
That was amazing. And, sort of big ups to Carlton Cole for doing that. But you see all these white figures who are revered. Like United have got songs about going on a piss with Georgie Best, and like he did some bad stuff. Paul Pogba doesn't drink. He works hard on the training ground, which he does. He's not lazy, because if he was lazy, he wouldn't be where he is. Yet, Paul Pogba is the virus. Paul Pogba is the problem. You just have to see it on Twitter. And I firmly believe that he doesn't fit what an older generation thinks of a footballer. So he doesn't drink. He's black, he's Muslim, basically, and he doesn't drink. So he's different. So that's why they don't like him. So that's where Islamophobia comes in. That's another layer.
Has a personality. Let's say it, okay? He's black, he's Muslim, he has a personality. He isn't going to wear his cap the normal way. He has a personality. He isn't going to wear his trousers all the way down, but the ankle lengths all the way down. He's going to raise them up. He has a personality. What's wrong? He smiles. He laughs. He dances.
He enjoys life. He dances, yeah.
Thank you. He enjoys life. And what are we told when we're younger? Make sure you have fun. Enjoy your life. Okay, do what makes you happy. Okay, if he doesn't play, I get it. People want passion merchants. They want him to be sprinting around the park, tackling. Listen, he's not Roy Keane, David Beckham, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes rolled into one. He's merely just Paul Pogba. Okay, you let him express himself on the pitch. Period. But what they don't like is because they can't control him. That's it. He's not a robot. He speaks to people. They're talking about interviews he does with journalists, blah, blah. Have anyone ever stepped back and thought, he's probably thinking, look, this guy, never seen this person before. He wants to do an interview. No problem. I know my name has a bit of weight. He can release a story. Why is people not seeing it like that? Do you know?
Because they don't, though, Bobz. They don't. Because football fans don't. Football fans don't think it's about everything, though. You know, you get into just go on football Twitter and it's toxic, right? It's absolutely toxic. People don't think about these footballers being human beings, and the fact that they don't think they're being human beings, they're like, we pay money to watch you play. You make $100,000 a week. You have to do the way that we want you to do it, and if you don't, we'll abuse you. When what walk of life do they do that? Where in life can you actually go sit in the fan? I mean, you sit in the stands and the abuse that players get. Where in life can you do that? You can't. Football's like a completely different world, and this is a problem. And people think that because he's worth 90 million, you can say what you want to him. You know, do you not think that he's got social media? Do you not think he looks at it? Do you not? Does no one think about his mental health? We talk about mental health and advocating it. What brown and black people had to go through in terms of racism affects your mental health. Like, you second guess yourself, and then you go inside yourself. And you think, you know, for example, last sort of example I'm going to give, but jobs-wise, right? My name's Haider Ubani. Like, automatically, I was finding that I wasn't getting through on job applications. So I changed it for a few of them. And lo and behold, my phone was ringing. Changed my first name to something, you know. And I've changed it back. Yeah, I just put an N on the end to Hayden. Hayden. Yeah. Like, it looks more, but I changed it. You know, my dad, he always said to me, my dad calls himself Andy when he goes out to work. And my dad's like, he's much lighter than I am. He could pass as a white guy, really, or something like that. But, you know, he went out and he changed his name, and he said, you know, that's what I'm known as when I go out and work, because people looked at my name and they turned me away. This was years ago, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Still now, he's kept it. He's changed it back now, so it's more established. But to establish yourself, I said to him, I'm not going to change my name. I did it for a few applications. I'm not going to do it because, you know what? If someone doesn't want to hire me for me, then that's their loss.
They're lost. I'm going to conclude on that. Haider, thank you so much. Seriously. Blessings on blessings on blessings, my friend.
Mate,
seriously.
Thank you for having me, mate. Whenever you need me again, mate, just drop me a message. I really enjoyed it, and it's nice to speak to someone who actually understands what you're going through, what you've been through as well. Because
100%, and please, vice versa, man.
Always,
whether it be football, whatever, you know, I'm happy to come and, you know, help and support. Guys, you know, that's it. Finished the nice therapeutic conversation on Bitz and Bobz meets Haider. Please like and subscribe. Yo, Haider, drop your socials, man, so they know where to find you.
Yeah, so at Haider_Ubani, as you can see, and also my podcast is the Elite Football Show, but it's at EFS_M Media. So yeah, definitely check it out if you like United content, and also just no reactionary rubbish that you see from the mainstream media, which is dominated by idiots who don't know what they're talking about. And I feel like there's a change going on. There's going to be a revolution in the media where people like us, people like us will start taking over. So yeah, respect to what you're doing, man. It's amazing.
Thank you very much, guys. Guys, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Take care and be safe. Enjoy.